So today I want to talk about um, possible implementations of eugenics that could actually work. Um, I'm not saying I would even know what those would be, but I just think it should be explored um, because a lot of people are against this idea from the historical perspective, but I have never really bought that because there are a lot of things that on the first try haven't worked out, and it doesn't just mean you write off the idea. Um, so anyway, just without that prejudice against it, um, I tend to view things in a dispassionate way anyway, uh, by habit and by principle. Um, we can look at even this topic. So I think it would be rather obvious to most people that having a kid who is in really poor condition um, is not ideal. So if, for instance, if you women over like 40 um, have a dramatically increased risk, I believe it's 1 in 25 of a chance, something around there. I'd have to look up the specifics. Um, anyway, the risk is quite high comparatively once they're above 40 for having a child with Down syndrome. And I feel like this is something that people don't really like to talk about, but it seems to me that if you are going to spend a lot of resources on a kid, then you would want that kid to be in the best position possible. So this is kind of what I've mentioned in previous videos. So people already kind of agree with a type of eugenics in the first place, where if they make the decision that they don't want to have a kid after 40, well, why is that? Because you don't want to increase the chance that that child is going to have birth defects and live a much harder life than necessary. Um, a lot of things kind of you could wrap up into the same thinking as eugenics that I think a lot of people don't recognize. So, one thing someone pointed out to me was that uh, just the very mating process itself is or could be considered a kind of eugenics because you're not picking just anyone. Um, you pick someone who you're attracted to, you pick someone who you think has good traits. And well, why do you do this? Because A, that person is interesting to you, and B, the reason that they're interesting, you could say on one level, is because you think those would be good genes. Now that's a oversimplification, of course, but it kind of all plays out still in the math of why you're picking one person over another person is you're picking who you think will give you the best offspring. And eugenics is the same idea as that, just in a more contentious framing because it's premeditated with the explicit goal of improving your chances of getting this or that trait that you would view desirable, as opposed to um, kind of doing the same thing tacitly in the normal circumstance of just living your life in the world where you didn't choose this girlfriend or boyfriend because I don't know, they had a weird nose or something, and you thought that nose looked stupid, and you didn't want to have kids with them because you thought they were going to have a terrible nose. Now, I'm not saying people necessarily reason like that, but just as an example, I would hope you wouldn't, be that judgmental, but maybe some people are. Uh, but the thing is, like a lot of people, they might not explicitly have those thoughts, but why did you ignore um, little Timmy or little Sally? Well, they had a nose, so a weird nose, I should say. Not that they had a nose, but so in other words, what I'm saying is like a lot of this is already kind of baked in, and people don't really realize that they're doing it because it's just socially normalized. But then if you throw around the word eugenics, then people kind of view it in this myopic sense of, well, it has to be this thing that happened in 1940s, and that's the only viable way to look at it, where it isn't.